Welcome to the Spinwhiz Comics Show. Whoa. From Raleigh, North Carolina. Join us for exclusive interviews with the publishers bringing you the newest titles in indie comics, webcomics, movies, and more.
No way.
And now, here's your host, Jeff Palumbo.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stream. You all look fantastic tonight. I have a great person on the show tonight. A great guy. He and I have hung out multiple times now. We finally got to meet in person at San Diego Comic-Con. He was on the show about a year ago. We hung out again at C2E2 right before this ridiculous amount of virus was coming through. And if anything, that was actually happening during the time that C2E2 was there. And it's probably going to be one of the last events in the comic industry that we're going to see, even maybe past San Diego Comic-Con. This year. I think it's a little bit up in the air as whether or not that's going to happen or not. But regardless, I have him here tonight. Frank GOGOL is here. And so Frank and I met about a year and a half ago when SourcePoint Press was onboarding. And I'm telling you, when we first had the first interview, he likes Boston. And I'm a Carolina fan, and I'm pretty sure Boston wiped the floor with us like that night before we actually had our interview. And we still were, obviously we get along very well. We have a lot of likenesses, but a great dude, a ridiculous writer. I mean, the two books that he has on Spinwhiz Comics right now, I'm going to get into in a minute, but they're fantastic. And if you talk to him, he's such a good guy. He's like, yeah, I guess they're all right. And everybody else is blown away by them. So it's just the kind of dude he is, which is also the kind of person that I like interviewing, that I like being friends with, because in the future, as things grow for him, he's going to remember little people like myself, even though hopefully by that time Spinwhiz will be a multi-million-dollar platform that's just crushing it, and we're hanging out and drinking Cristal and stuff like that. But hey, hopes and dreams really is what it comes down to. But without further ado, I'm going to bring the man in because I don't want to keep him out there. Right now, he can't even see anything. It's just like whatever. But let me bring him in here. Frank.
Hey.
Oh, good, you're there. I was like, holy shit, I had all that build up, and then my microphone didn't work. I'm like, good God. How are you, Frank?
I'm good. And you know what? That's a very real danger of doing these kinds of like new media things like podcasts and live streams. I did a live stream yesterday for a half hour, didn't look at the comments, and for like 20 minutes of it, people couldn't hear me. It was horrible.
Facebook Live for the win.
Yeah, well, Facebook Live sucks.
It is not good.
It is imperfect technology. We were able to get it to work on the third try, whatever. I got 2 practice runs before that.
There you go. Well, you have been super busy, my friend. Again, I just mentioned that we got to hang out a little bit at C2E2. Drastically different from when we met at San Diego Comic-Con, because I was just kind of hustling. Nobody knew who I was. Everybody knew who you were. But you have since grown, not only with grief for
Call me fat.
Oh, no, I don't think you're fat. I think you actually lost weight.
Maybe.
Well, you got that married. You lost weight for getting married and stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm a little touchy. All this cabin fever. I've been stuck inside for 3 weeks. Sure, we'll touch on.
We will.
I'm just...
Yeah, I my diet has just gone whoop, because we had to go buy in bulk and food, and I'm like, oh, there's chips here now, and there's like donuts for breakfast, and shit.
See, like I'm eating about the same, but I can't go to the gym, so I'm not burning the same number of calories. I walk to work. I live about 2 miles from my job, but like it's a straight shot up Market Street here in San Francisco, and I'm used to walking 4.5 miles a day, on weekdays, and then hitting the gym when I get home. Like now in the mornings, I'll walk halfway to work and halfway back, and try not to break the social distancing and stuff, but also like stretch my legs and but it's been tough. It's been tough.
Well, we can jump right into that. How have you been dealing with this? And we'll start with this, and then we'll kind of get into what our industry is kind of going up against at the moment. But how are you dealing with things? I mean, being a writer, obviously not hard to do from anywhere, but being a writer, you kind of like to be at least I like to be in my area. It's hard for me to go right at a Starbucks or something. How are you kind of dealing with the transition of the coronavirus and how it's affecting you?
Honestly, like I'm doing okay on the whole. I work in digital marketing for a startup here in San Francisco, so like I regularly work from home in my home office, which I don't know, can people see me? Is this a live stream? If you can see like behind me, like I've got an office, and like it's pretty well equipped for doing everything I need to do at work and like then some. So like, work's been fine. I work from home sometimes anyway. So that hasn't been bad. Like my wife is working from home, and like we're spending a little more time together than we're normally used to, and maybe butting heads a touch more, but like that's even sort of in the past. Like honestly, the transition has been more or less like, we kind of clicked right into place. The hard part is, like I was saying, like not being able to go outside. We're very lucky in that my wife's parents have a place about 60 or 70 miles north of here in Napa, which is a little more secluded, and we can go up there some weekends and kind of, there's like a yard, and it's like, property's kind of set away from everyone else's property, so we can at least be outside and like walk around and have a little more freedom. And like I'm really honestly starting to cherish like those days, because part of my writing process is to just like to put on like some music and like walk and like just kind of like work through things, and like I'm getting like half of that time in these days, if not less. So it's been a real mixed bag, but like on the whole, I'm healthy and comfortable. So like I can't complain.
That's good, man. Yeah, us too. Although we have a 7-year-old, and the schools were not, at least in North Carolina, were not ready to have kids being taught virtually. So it has been a curveball for us, and my wife is a photographer, and right now there's no income coming in there because obviously you can't go take pictures of people. So it's just me, but we're all safe, we're all healthy, and we can go outside, which is great because we have a neighborhood and a yard and stuff like that. So we go out and I play soccer with him in the backyard when I can, and whatever else, just to help burn energy. And of course we have a 6-month-old puppy who wants to be outside all the time too, so that helps. And so we are lucky in where we are. I'm lucky that I get to work from home from Lenovo. Lenovo doesn't want people at the office, so that's great. And then the Spinwhiz Comics stuff I do from home anyway. So I'm luckier than some of the people that are stuck in hospitals and trying to get ventilators and all sorts of other crazy shit.
It's a mess. It's a big fucking mess.
It is a big freaking mess for sure. So industry stuff, we started talking offline about the industry, but I think we can bring it up here because I don't want to negate the fact that you have a sick title coming out that's already getting like blowing people away. But from an industry's perspective, let's talk about how that might affect sales for you and what's going on in the industry right now.
So like the sales numbers thing is something like I've honestly, for a couple of reasons, been trying not to think about. Just because I don't know, it's not important right now. Like how many copies of No Heroine we sell is so unimportant in the grand scheme of like what's happening. Like, and that it's, and like I sort of like have come to accept like the situation is not ideal for releasing a book. The
True.
People who have series or new series in the April catalog to be out in June there's a very real possibility on the last day of the month, after 30 days of hustling to get your word out about your book, Diamond could be like, nah, we're not going to release the June books because things are bad. So like, just for a number of reasons, practicality and just like moral reasons, I haven't tried to focus on it too much because I'd rather spend that energy reaching out to retailers, seeing if I can do anything for them, checking in on my artist friends who, are freelancers and don't have health care and are like at extra big risk right now. But if you wanted like some sobering like information about the situation,
let's do that.
As far as I understand, and I've been in contact with somewhere between 300 and 400 retailers over the last like 10 days, between checking in on people and between reaching out to promote No Heroine. and the vast majority of those retailers are planning to make April orders for books to come out in June. And a big part of that is because they're losing business right now. And because the way pre-orders work, you order 3 months in advance. Like, so if they don't make their orders now, like they're not only screwed in April, they're also going to be screwed in June when those books come out and they didn't order them. And it's a little bit of a gamble because we don't know what the situation is going to be, or like how many of them are going to, recover if things get better. But for the most part, like a lot of them are hustling. They're adopting new technology, which is really cool. Like seeing a lot more Facebook live streams. Got people sort of doing direct ordering from publishers, like 'cause Diamond isn't distributing right now, and like some names that we haven't seen before. A lot of indie books are getting attention that they weren't previously. So like, it's kind of like Jurassic Park. Like, life finds a way. But it's certainly not a good situation. I'm personally hopeful, but I also don't know what tomorrow's going to look like. But right now, I feel like in the end, whenever that comes, like things will be better. Because I know one of my big touchstones for stuff like this is Hurricane Sandy. I lived in New Jersey on the shore when Hurricane Sandy hit in 2012, and I remember like all these feelings I'm feeling now, feeling then, like very distinctly, like that sort of weird bottom of your stomach, like emptiness, like that comes from uncertainty, like not knowing what's going to happen next. But also like seeing people being so incredibly selfless. Like, I mean, the sort of crisis kind of brings out the worst and best in people. Like if you think back to like Hurricane Katrina, like they showed a lot of images of people looting and stuff like that on the news. But my boss at the time ran a department store, and I worked in the clothing department, and he loaded up pretty much all our stock, and he and I drove it down to New Orleans to hand it out to people. And like it was a totally different picture. It was people taking care of each other, people just cooking huge batches of food to give away, and people, with generators, letting people, charge up their phones and shit like that. And I saw a lot of the same during Hurricane Sandy, like, or in the aftermath, like people just putting out extension cords with like other extension cords plugged into them and power strips so people could plug in their phones and stuff. And I'm seeing a lot of that in like comics right now. So like, I know that Katrina came and happened and was awful, and we suffered and moved forward. And I know the same thing happened with Sandy, and I do believe that'll happen now too. And I'm seeing all of the same warning signs that like it's worth being hopeful about.
I agree, and it's going to make hopefully us as humans and us from an American or world really view stronger.
Yeah. And well, I mean, like one of the benefits of something like this happening, and like, a benefit is even a strong word for it, but one of the things that you do get out of it is it kind of shows you all the flaws in the system, right? Like I don't want to get political, but healthcare is a topic that needs to be discussed, whatever the solution is. Like I'm not picking the side here, but clearly the healthcare system that we have in place right now does not support something like this happening, and it is happening. So that is a flaw. And we saw the same thing like during Hurricane Sandy, like, having people live that close to the water and like essentially be under sea level, like eventually that thing was going to happen. And these are like some of the world's most predictable tragedies, but we kind of don't build up sort of safety nets for them. And
it'll never happen to us.
Yeah. Well, and I get that mentality. It's like, you don't think you're going to get in a car accident until you do. Like it's very human, and I understand it. But now that these things are like sort of revealed, and we see where things need to be fixed with the comic industry and distribution and the way we order books and healthcare and stuff like that. The next step is to kind of address them, right? Like to find solutions. And that's kind of the phase we're in right now. We know what the problems are now. We're trying to find solutions. Comic shops, today was the first day that comic shops didn't have new product on their shelves. And a lot of shops are kind of scrambling and trying to figure out what to do, how to bring money in, keep their lights on.
Yep. It is difficult. And, we can only try so much because even though we are digital, that does help. We have something going live tomorrow that might help. We have print on demand coming, which we think will help because we're testing that right now. And I don't want to say it's coming at the perfect time, because there's no perfect time to have an epidemic or a pandemic, but hopefully it will, if things work out the correct way, we will be able to act as a little bit of a help for everybody that, mainly content creators and readers. Unfortunately, if we can do something for the stores, awesome. I don't know if we can or not, because I think we're probably a little ways out from that, being that only 2 people run this entire company. But yeah, I think everybody is coming together and trying to come up with solutions. And I think at the end of the day, like you said, we will, just like, the past that you've been through, we got through it, and now now they're stronger because of it. Hopefully. I hope this happens the same way, where from a pandemic piece, our healthcare system is updated drastically. And from a comics situation, what happens? Like, what happens if it does go out till June, July? There's all sorts of stuff. So will we be able to help fill a void and help everybody out? Will there be something completely brand new? Will there be a downfall in certain areas? Like, we don't know. But what I do know is, as people start to change and adapt, good things will come of that. And I think that's something to look forward to, is what's going to happen. Because Marvel and DC are like, I think DC specifically said we're done for a while. Did Marvel say the same thing?
I honestly, I don't have any sense of what Marvel and DC are doing. That's not me saying in any way that they're not doing anything. It's just, my focus is sort of been more grassroots the last couple of weeks, like, retailers, indie publishers, Source Point Press. I haven't heard anything bad, or necessarily positive. I'm sure. I mean, they're 2 of the 3 major players in the industry, so I'm sure whatever they're cooking up is going to be at least part of the solution.
Yeah. Well, DC did say they're stopping new prints, and they're not going to release anything until.
I mean, that makes sense. Like, printers are all in China, so they can't get prints.
Yeah.
So maybe they're saying they're stopping, but I don't. I mean, it sounds like they can't.
Yeah, I think they're just holding more than anything else.
And the other thing is, Diamond's not taking new stock into the warehouses. So, like, even if they wanted to, I don't think they could. So, I don't know. Like, I'm not knocking DC, but if that's what they said, it sounds like a non-solution, something that they don't have a say in.
Yes, correct. It's just, shit. And, cut it and go from there. But besides all that stuff, let's talk about new, more awesome stuff. Since the last time you were on, you got married.
How about them Hurricanes? Sorry. I mean, I know the season's over now, and I'm pretty sure Boston was in first in the league by quite a bit. So I'm going to say they won the cup.
I mean, if you're going to play that way, I can't really contest that.
No, I don't think you can. Anyway, sorry, I saw my opening and I had to take it.
That's some shit right there.
Yeah.
So you got married recently. Congratulations.
6 months ago.
Yep, which is awesome.
It is awesome. It's very cool.
And we got to hang out a little bit at C2E2, which again, fantastic. And I got to meet a lot more of the Source Point Press crew. Because
I'm so sorry.
Well, it really only had been at San Diego Comic-Con. It was just me and you. And then I met Freddie and
Josh.
I think that was it.
Did you meet Casey? Casey was there too.
Casey was there for a little bit, and I was running around. But this time, you guys had a massive booth right in the front and center, consistently busy, met a whole bunch more people, and you guys killed it at C2E2. Like, congratulations. You smoked it.
I'm glad we did, because it was the last con we're doing for a while.
I know.
But yeah, like, a lot of people don't kind of understand or not, maybe not understand, but like don't have a sense of like the breadth of the company. There are, like, we have a Facebook group, private group called Source Point Press Convention Group. And there are, I think, 170 people involved with this company at, like, in some capacity. Like, there are a handful of full-time paid employees. But like, in terms of creators and like significant others of creators who help out, like, we have like a very large network of people. And I mean, you said you've met a lot. I think maybe 1/10 of the people involved were there.
Yeah.
and like some of them are people you had already met. But yeah, no, it's a much bigger company than most people realize, and like that, I think that's a big part of its success. Like these are people who are like invested in the company on like an emotional level, like and we bring in people who aren't comics folks to help us out, and they're happy to do it, and it's like a new set of eyes. It's a really cool operation, and I don't think there's another publisher that operates anything close to like this.
Yeah, and you guys have been just over the last year been crushing it in general. Like more and more titles are coming out. They're all really great. Bob Sally continues to do things on social media. I've yet to meet him.
He's
amazingly enough
a good guy.
I've heard good things. I mean, he's
also a Boston fan. So.
I know. I know it, but
smart guy.
You know, and Bob and I have spoken, obviously, but I haven't had him on the show yet, and I haven't met him in person. So he's one of the people that I actually wanted to meet. But Travis, I hadn't met before. I had met Travis's brother, but so Travis McIntyre, for everybody that knows, he's the owner of SourcePoint Press, or president, owner,
president, editor in chief. SourcePoint Press is owned by a great many people.
Right. That's right.
We did a round of fundraising last year internally where creators could buy into the company. So now it is owned. It's essentially, it's like a literal creator-owned company, not like Image, like, you know, in the sense that the books are creator-owned. The company itself is not majority creator-owned, but a small minority of it is spread out amongst most of the people involved.
Awesome. Yeah, that I knew that. I forgot that had happened. So that's awesome. The booth looked great, but you also have some stuff coming up. So let's tell everybody. Let's see where you've been. So I'm gonna drop some links in here for all you people because Frank has a couple here. We have Grief. I'm gonna drop that link in right now. And for those of you that are not live on Twitch, but you're actually watching on YouTube, the links are gonna be right below. Don't worry about not being able to find them. All of Frank's stuff is right below. You can click on it. It's free to read. You know, one of the great things about Frank, and he's, even though he's literally, it looks like he's sitting right next to me, but he's really not.
Am I not sitting next to you?
I mean, you kind of are.
Fuck.
I mean, it's one of those things. When we first met, this boy hustles. Let me tell you that. At shows and stuff, he is a professional 100%. The boy hustles. But his goal, while is obviously to make money so he can do more, it's so people read his content. That was the first thing he said. He's like, you know what? The money's great when it comes in. When I sell stuff, it's fantastic. But my goal is to have people read my stories. And I think that is why people like what you do so much, because you write with heart. You don't write with a dollar sign in mind. You write with an idea that you're going to put out and be like, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, well, you know, honestly, in comics, it's an insane idea to make that people make money. Most people don't ever make money in comics. So, like, if you make that your target, if that's the end of the hallway you want to walk down, like, your odds of success are significantly lower than if, like, you're just out there trying to make the best stories you can and connect with people. It's like, you know, lack of a better word, it's a fool's errand. I've been very lucky in that both of the books that I've put out so far have made their money back and then some. But those are like anomalies, and the fact that both of them did it is like even statistically more improbable. Like it's just working out. So like, but you can't count on that, and I never want to. The other thing is, like, you know, I am comfortable. I don't need money, so I can do this without the leash. One of my biggest criticisms of my peers, and like I don't mean this as a bad thing, but like one thing I recognize about my creator friends, especially my artist friends, is that they take the plunge into being freelancers very quickly. And that is cool because you don't have to work a day job and you get to make your own hours and you get to do the thing you love as your job. But it comes with a lot of instability. Like you don't know that work's coming in. Somebody might bail on you and like your project's dead in the water and then you stop getting paid suddenly. Healthcare isn't guaranteed. And like, that's not a position I want to be in. Like I have a 3-year plan that I don't know how viable it is anymore given everything that's going on. But when 2020 started, I had a 3-year roadmap that at the beginning of 2022 would have set me up very nicely to go full-time freelance. But it had like some milestones along the way, like having a year's worth of salary and savings, which is not something that's easy to do. It's that you have to be very disciplined and say no more than you say yes. And I had sort of like a roadmap to make that happen. And, I have series that are planned and coming out and on the schedule, and like making them happen and continuing to build my portfolio and my fan base and notoriety if I have any of that. Yeah, like I just can't imagine like what it's like to just jump in and not know that you have food on the table in a month, which unfortunately is something that a lot of artists and creators are going through right now. Like, if half the artists in comics get sick or catch coronavirus, like it could literally kill them because they don't have health insurance. And if they do catch it and they do go to the hospital, they do get treatment, that treatment costs like about $20,000. None of them have that. Like most people don't have $20,000 like to put towards health care. So it's a tough situation.
Yeah, it does. It sucks. But and I agree. I don't even have an answer for that because it does suck. Again, it goes back to the fact that this is putting a very bright light on healthcare here in our country, and hopefully something good comes of it. So, but back to you being awesome.
Yes.
It really is about the story for you, and I think that's why people gravitate to your stories so much. So the first one that I'm putting in the chat or down below is Grief, Ringo Award nominee in 2018, which again we spoke about was actually done in 2019, but it was for 2018. You guys have to read it. It's fantastic. It's in there. It's free to read. Go knock yourself out. And then the other one is what I was actually at the beginning of. Frank was kind enough to put this on Spinwhiz Comics as a exclusive for about a month and a half when it first came out, and that's Dead End Kids. And I don't know how this is not going to get nominated.
This guy.
That guy right there. I mean, we have issues 1, 2, and 3 right now, all up on the site. You can read 1 and 2. 3 just recently came out, and we also have a bundle that you can buy for a discount. So I would.
You are the only person who has them. Comixology will not accept our files. So.
Well, we basically, like we said, we made a bundle for you.
Yeah.
So it's just 3 different PDFs. We mashed them into one. When we have print on demand, if SourcePoint Press wants to jump in on that, we will have print as well. But we don't know how we're going to do that. Those are different, all sorts of different stuff. So nobody has to worry about that. We'll get to that when we get to that. But you have to read Dead End Kids. It's fantastic. I think it's going to be nominated again, or for the first time for a Ringo Award. And then you have to do the trifecta, because I'm already going to say that your new title is going to be a 2020 Ringo nominee. So you can be a trifecta, and hopefully one of these is going to trigger for you. And then hopefully, you got to get it. We'll push for you. We will. We pushed for Grief for you, of course, but it's No Heroine.
Yeah,
and show us that sick, but that's the one cover.
This is the main cover.
Now show us the hotness.
So yesterday we had the announcement for the book, like the official announcement, even though I've been talking about it for like 6 months. This is a Chris Callahan cover. It was going to be an Emerald City Comic Con exclusive, but the best laid plans and all that.
That happens. Yes,
yeah.
for sure.
Whatever. Roll with the punches. We just found a new way to use it, and it worked out. We sold these. It's a limited print run. There were 25 of them. We sold them for $20 a piece, and every one of those dollars is paying for me to donate books to shops right now. So it was like the best of all situations.
That is awesome, and awesome of you.
Like I said, like I'm in a position to be able to help. For a lot of my life, I wasn't, and I needed help. So at the very least, this is me sort of putting it back into the world. But also, retailers are really struggling, and like we talk about the success of Dead End Kids, and like, yeah, it was a much bigger book than I had anticipated. But none of that happens if shops didn't pre-order it and push it and encourage their readers to buy it. So like, I owe these people like everything. Like I wouldn't be doing No Heroine this year if it wasn't for them last year. So at the very least, I owe them. But,
yeah.
And like I said, I can do it. So I'm happy to.
Yeah. Well, this is going to be another blockbuster for you. So it's so everybody knows it's not on Spinwhiz Comics yet. It's too new. It's not out really anywhere yet. So eventually it will be. When it gets to Spinwhiz, we will promote the crap out of it. So just stay tuned on our social media, and I'm sure Frank will bust it out once we have it, once it's up too. So don't worry about that. But in the meantime, can you tell people what it's about?
Yeah. So No Heroine is essentially my love letter to Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Buffy was probably my first storytelling love. I'm a big Joss Whedon fan in general, but I grew up on Buffy. I started watching it in 1997 when I was 9 years old, like way too young to be watching it. And I've loved it ever since. So the story is it's kind of like Buffy meets Tank Girl. It's like a punk rock take on Buffy. It's about a young woman named Kayla who is a recovering heroin addict, and she's about to be 90 days sober. And the sort of person she relies on for support goes missing. So she has to kind of hunt him down and find out what happened to him. And she finds out that he either got abducted or kidnapped or sort of ended up with this gang of drug dealing vampires. And she has to sort of go on a suicide mission to save his life. And so like that's like the general plot. The book really at its heart is about addiction and sort of like the recovery phase and how hard that can be for people. Pop culture kind of like shows us addiction like one of two very extreme ways. Like on the one side, we have these very demonized looks at addiction where these people are awful and like all they do is hurt the people around them and it's just, chronically bad. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we've got sort of this overly sympathetic, these are people with a disease, they can't help themselves. We should feel sorry for them kind of approach to talking about addiction. And I grew up the child of two addicts. My father passed away when I was about a year and a half old from an overdose, and my mom struggled with addiction for pretty much my whole life until she passed away. And like I just know from firsthand experience with them and other people I grew up with in New Jersey, that like addiction is just it's much more nuanced and complicated and gray than we are ever told. So this is Kayla's story of, she's not a good person. She was an addict and she hurt a lot of people and she did a lot of things wrong, but she's clean now and she's trying to make amends and struggling with that and sometimes making it worse. And it's a very human story, in spite of the fact that it's full of like monsters. So it's in the vein of Dead End Kids in the sense that it's a story about people going through something, but wrapped up in this sort of cool genre story. So Dead End Kids was about childhood trauma and it was a murder mystery. This is sort of a monster book that's wrapped around a story of like addiction and recovery and realizing that you're not a very good person and wanting that to be different.
Mm-hmm. And it this isn't a one shot, right?
No, sir. It is another 3-issue miniseries. I like that format. I think it's surprising and kind of constrains me in such a way that I have to be creative in ways that a 12-issue series would let me get away with. Mm-hmm. These issues are bigger than the Dead End Kids issues by a few pages. So I did want to give readers a little more bang for their buck this time around. But I'm always kind of constantly aware that, Dead End Kids was a hit, but not everybody who walks into a comic shop knows me. Not everyone who walks into a comic shop has, $24 extra. So if I can keep my series on the shorter side, at least issue by issue, it's a less of investment. Mm-hmm. It's easier to ask somebody to spend $12 on 3 issues rather than, 24 on 6 issues. And I'm very conscious of that. Like I remember walking into the comic shop and saying, I don't have enough money for all the books that I want to read. Mm-hmm. And I want to make that a little easier on people.
That's awesome.
And the same thing was true with the Dead End Kids trade that just came out in print, and the trade is actually cheaper than the single issues. It's $10. I worked really hard talking with Source Point Press to make sure that was really accessible. and that the price point was really on the lower side, especially since so many people had a hard time tracking down the first and second issues. Like, I know a lot of people weren't able to read it, so I want, like you were saying, like I just want people to read my stories, and I want them to be as accessible as possible.
Mm-hmm. And you do a good job at it. I think it's like lightning in a bottle with you, where it's very much like before you know it, it's over, and you're like, where's the rest? Like, there's something there, but they want more. And I think there are not a lot of people who write in that manner. I think you're one of. There's a lot of people that do 4-issue shots, but I think you have a way of completing an entire story, but leaving it in case you wanted to do something. Like with Dead End Kids, is there going to be a spinoff or a volume 2 potentially? I mean, yes. You don't have to tell me yes, but
no.
Potential.
The answer is yes. It is not officially on the calendar, but we're talking about a November release, so later this year. We'll have to see how things kind of pan out in the real world. But it is written. I'm revising the first script this week, and art will start on that toward the end of April, beginning of May, and we'll be well ahead of schedule. Nanad is a very fast artist, so I'm not worried at all about that. And if anything, we'll have to sit on it for a little bit. Maybe it comes out in the spring, but that is coming. I can actually even tell you a little bit about it.
Ooh.
And I apologize. I'm starting to lose my voice. This is my third interview / podcast of the day. And
oh my gosh.
It's starting to wear. Yeah, this happens to me on the first day of every con. By day 2, I sound like a pack-a-day smoker. So Dead End Kids 2 is we're kind of taking the True Detective approach. In that it's the same name. It's going to be called Dead End Kids as well. It'll have a subtitle, and it's going to be a different set of kids, a different story, a different place, and a different time. It's not to say that they're not necessarily connected. That's going to be sort of for the reader to figure out if it is or not. I won't say. But this set of kids is it's 3 kids in 2008. They're all the children or relatives of people who died or were killed as a result of 9/11. So yeah, this is something that really hits close to home for me because I was about their age. So it's it's definitely a childhood trauma story. It's framed through 9/11, sort of retroactively or retrospectively rather. Like I said, the story takes place in 2008. And it's just like Dead End Kids 1, it's a crime book. So this one is going to be a heist.
Ooh.
Yeah, it kind of sounds a little hokey on paper, like, kids who are 9/11 victims, children who do a heist. But I think when people read it, they're going to really dig it. I can definitely say with 100% assurance that I like this volume better than the first volume.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. This one's going to be 4 issues. The issues are a little bit bigger. So there's a little more story real estate. I'm a better storyteller than I was 3 years ago when I started writing Dead End Kids. And I think there's like a real, the cast is a little more interesting and diverse. And I think more people are going to be able to connect with it in ways, because there's not a person alive who's over the age of 20 who wasn't affected by 9/11, and that's the majority of comics readers. And I think that this is going to touch a lot of people in ways they didn't expect.
That's awesome, man. Goosebumps, like down my back.
You're not the first person to say that. Maybe I'm insensitive, but
no. I mean, I remember 9/11. A friend of mine passed away in one of the buildings. And it was because I went to school in upstate New York in Oswego, and a lot of my friends were from the city. So that day, I remember what I was doing, where I was. I was actually a manager at Abercrombie and Fitch. I remember seeing it. I know. I mean, my baldness and my flabbiness doesn't say that I used to be, had hair and, muscular. But
everyone has hair to begin with.
Most everyone. This was almost 20 years ago now. So
it was, that'll be 20 years ago next year.
Yeah. Yeah. So I remember everything, and it was such a almost unheard of, and the amount of spin that your mind takes in different directions so quickly that I hope nobody ever has to go through that again, because the amount of discussion and thought process and this, that, and everything at least went through my head, and then finding out one of my college friends was in there as well as, people knew parents and all sorts of stuff and uncles, and it was just awful.
Yeah.
And then obviously the responders that passed away, and then the responders that finally got coverage after all this time, thanks in part to Jon Stewart, who is just the man.
He really is.
That is a time and space that you're choosing that people automatically feel that it brings them back to something that they may not have enjoyed. Mm-hmm. And I think tapping into that with this story is going to really, in a good way, get people thinking. And I can't wait to read it, because I haven't had a point in time like that. Like, I've never been part of the hurricane. I was never part of any of those, but I obviously twice removed from 9/11, thankfully, but I still remember what it felt like and what I was thinking and things of that nature. And I really I think if I can put myself in that headspace of where I was and then read your comic, I would like to talk to somebody who was not in that headspace and had, was 4 points removed, and how they read it.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be awesome.
I'll be interested to see how people who weren't born yet react to it.
Yeah.
I think part of what made Grief and Dead End Kids work, though, was that just because you don't know somebody who was murdered or can't relate directly to one of the stories, like in a literal sense, like you've never had mental illness or had an autistic child. Mm-hmm. I think that, like, if you like broaden the scope and make it the highest level version of the thing that I'm trying to talk about. Like, not everyone's had a friend murdered when they were 13 years old, like
hopefully
Murphy did.
Not. Yes.
Yeah, but everyone's lost somebody they care about. Mm-hmm. And tragedy is on some level relative. Like I have been through a lot of hurricanes and 9/11 and stuff like that, and I am a little bit less susceptible to tragedy. Like, things don't hit me as hard, and I'm a little more kind of rigid in how I respond to them than the average person. Like, my wife is the complete opposite of me. So, like, it'll be, I think we can all relate to losing somebody we care about, or struggling with something on a daily basis. Like, it doesn't have to be having an autistic kid. It could just be like this thing that is a constant battle in your life. And I think that's part of what made these books as successful as they were, is that people can tap into them. Like, I mean, my biggest complaint when I read any book is that I just can't connect with it. Like, I love Spider-Man. I really do. And for a very long time, I haven't found Spider-Man particularly relatable or super interesting. I still read the book every month, but I can't remember the last time I was like, this is fucking good. It's got to be more than 10 years ago now. Like, the stuff like Joe Straczynski was on the book for a long time, and then they sort of did one more day where they had like a rotating cast of writers. And I think the early Dan Slott stuff was like the last stuff I really, really, really enjoyed. But like, I don't know, like those, I just try to tell the stories that I like. And like I was talking on an interview the other day, like A Walk to Remember, the adaptation of the Nicholas Sparks book, came out in the early 2000s, like 2001 or 2002.
Yep.
And I don't love that movie. I don't think it's a very good movie, but one of the things it really does really well is it nails emotional beats. And I remember watching that movie a whole bunch of times when it first came out, and like kind of wondering like what it was about this not so great movie that like kept drawing me back. And it was just because I found some of the stuff going on in it relatable. And it's just, having an emotional hook is something that I think a lot of creators and readers maybe take for granted. I don't know. I don't want to accuse anybody of anything. But I know it's something that I find super valuable in story, and it's something I try to make sure is in mine, and it seems to be paying off, and people seem to be really resonating with it.
Mm-hmm. And I think that brings me back to my point of you being a likable and relatable person.
Fuck yeah, I'm likable.
I agree. Even, I mean, I like you, and you're a Boston fan. I mean, that has got to tell you something.
I feel like you're framing that backwards. You were a Carolina fan, and I like... Like what's the word for it? I allow you. Like, yeah, I can hold my nose.
Yeah, be like, So, but I think you take.
Where's all my Boston shit? I'm just gonna start putting it in the background of the shot.
You know what? I forgot to wear my. I should have worn my Carolina hat.
I had to put it away.
You had your Boston hat on last time.
Golf hat. Yeah, I don't know what happened to that. It went somewhere.
It probably got.
We moved. We moved back in July of last year. We bought a house, and like just lots of weird little things kind of went missing along the way. And
Were they all Boston stuff?
No, it's like a Boston hat, pair of shoes that I love that I had for like things that I'm sure my wife would have thrown away.
Mm-hmm. That happens. Yeah. Welcome to marriage.
Yeah, like some stuff I had from some old girlfriends. Like not that I was keeping it for any particular reason, but like it just kind of disappeared.
Yeah, that was welcome to marriage. That's it. But back to my point, you're so likable, and you have those things that.
I've got my Sharks hat.
Jeez, that's not as bad, but it's still kind of disgusting.
Well, I live near San Jose, and I like the Sharks.
You're allowed.
Yeah, I mean that's the team I get to see most. So.
Well, when Boston plays, do you wear your Boston in?
Yeah, no, always. When I lived in New Jersey, my brother was a big Devils fan, and like we would go to all the Boston, New Jersey games together. And I'd always wear my yellow. And when I go see the Sharks play with Boston, I definitely I was actually supposed to go see them play here on the 21st. It was one of my wedding gifts from my new cousin-in-law, Billy, who is out of Boston. But they stopped the season, and I have no reason to live anymore.
So let me say this one good thing about you, and then we're going to get on sports.
Okay.
The reason I like your writing is because it feels like you are talking to me and writing, if that makes any sense. Like when people meet you at shows, I feel like if they have read your content, they feel as though there's no disconnect in who wrote it as to how you speak to people. I'm not saying that you write like you speak. I'm just saying that your connection of who you are can be felt in books. Where when I write, I feel like I automatically disassociate myself. It's not a money thing for me. It's just I have a story, but it's so drastically not me that it's something completely different. So when people read Chimera, they're like, "Shit, you wrote this?" They're like, "That's not
you." Know what it is? You know why it feels like I'm talking to you when I write? It's because I fucking swear all the time, and there's so much swearing in my books. Like it's. I mean, like my characters don't have a voice; they have my voice, and I think that's part of it. But also, I think a lot of people, and this is not necessarily right or wrong. It's just not what works for me. Like a lot of creators who have aspirations of like a level of celebrity, kind of have like public personas. Few people spring to mind immediately, and I don't want to name names, but there are people who like have very separate private and public lives in comics, and there's a lot of reasons for that, and they all make sense to me. But like I just it feels like that's something that takes a lot of energy, and I don't know, like I like to think I'm a genuine person, and I want to kind of like I'd rather my brand, if I have one, be me than this kind of thing that I have to invent and is kind of a facsimile or caricature of who I am. I write books that I would like, which makes it really easy to talk about them and to be excited about them and tell other people about them and put myself into them, I guess. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
And F-bombs do help.
Yeah, fucking F-bombs.
Yeah, I mean, from Boston. You don't have the Boston accent. You never really. Were you from Boston? You were from Jersey, and then you went to California, right?
Yeah. So I have what everyone has 8 grandparents. Is that it, or great grandparents? Yeah. 7
yes.
7 of my 8 great grandparents, when they emigrated to the U.S. from Russia and Ireland, all landed in Boston eventually, and then I had one grandparent who ended up in New Jersey originally. Or great grandparent. So like it's inherited, but I've never personally lived in Boston. But I am incredibly Irish. I am 75% Irish, and most of my family comes from Ireland 2 generations back. So like I grew up on Boston sports, and
it happens.
I am like a diehard not Patriots fan though. So like
Thank
we can agree.
God.
And now I hate the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Wow, just because of Brady.
No, I don't care like so much. Like I do have a ton of respect for like people who are the best. Like we're both big hockey guys. Like I don't like Sidney Crosby and I don't like Alex Ovechkin, but I respect like how good they are.
Yeah.
And I don't hold it against anybody. Like I hate that they win all the time. I hate that they beat my team. And I recognize that I'm petty because of that. Same thing was true with Tom Brady. Though I think the last time Tom Brady played the 49ers, they were one of the only teams to beat him that year. So and that was a year that they went like 2-14. And the only one of the two teams they beat were the Patriots, which is insane. Like that is a statistical anomaly.
Yes, it is for sure. And Gorilla Mosh is in chat is saying honest hate. Like he's just saying it's just straight up like don't like you, respect you, but really hate you.
yeah. I mean, I'm a 49ers fan for football, so like I have a thing against the Cowboys and a little bit against the Giants. And I'm trying to like the Seahawks really rub me the wrong way. And actually, all the Seahawks players are really terrible. Like I don't like any of them. They're a bad team, and their fans are horrible too. Except for the ones who read my books. They're good people.
Well, so how have you been doing without sports?
You know it sucks. Like right this time of year, I'd be watching hockey. I'm a Sox fan. I like the Red Sox, but like I can't keep up with everything and then make comics. So like I'm more of a late season baseball fan. So like I'm not missing baseball right now. Yeah, just hockey. Like I'll watch the NBA championships every once in a while. Like I'm much less into basketball than I was. But I'd be probably checking out the Celtics stuff like this time of year. Football and hockey are the ones that I watch most or all the games. Everything else is kind of like, what I can pick up and then like the playoffs. So I'm not doing too bad. And like luckily, like I've had like the No Heroine promotion like leading up to right now. So like I haven't really had time to really worry about it. I think I would be much worse off if this was happening like in the fall when I didn't have a book to worry about and con season was over and like, the football season was going. I'd probably, I mean, this is like a dumb thing to have to cope with, but I would miss it for sure. Like, and I miss going to the movies and I miss, weekly comics as of this week. Like it's a very tough time, but in the grand scheme of things, like those are like small problems compared to like people dying. So
yeah, it's true.
Trying to have a lot of perspective these days, and it's the situation itself doesn't make it too hard to like say quit bitching. Like you don't have it the worst.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that have it a lot worse than us that are kind of mourning over family members that aren't coming back.
It's weird though. I don't see a lot of Canes fans like being upset that the season's over. I don't know what that is. Like, were you guys doing badly or something?
Well, we had a couple wins.
Like all year?
Yeah, all right. So this interview's over now, and we can get on. You never know. It could have been an anomaly, and we could have beaten Boston. And
absolutely. Like that's the thing I love about hockey, though, is that the best team can lose very easily because there's not like between like most teams and the best team, there's like a very small gap. Like football, it's not like that. You got 32 teams or 36 teams, I can't remember. And the gap between the worst team and the best team is like the size of the Grand Canyon. Like Tom Brady is going to beat the Arizona Cardinals every single time next year. No questions asked. Doesn't matter what team he's on. In hockey, you can win the President's Cup and get knocked out in the first round of the playoffs, and an underdog wildcard team can very easily win.
Yep.
So, and that's part of what's great about hockey.
Yeah.
Baseball is kind of like that.
It can
it's
be
a little more. It's a little more lopsided most of the time, but like once in a while, you'll get a season where like it pans out. And I think it's the structure, honestly. Like the best of 7 tournaments, like momentum plays a much bigger factor, or best of 5 in the playoffs in hockey. Whereas in football, it's like one and done.
Yeah. And I'm a big NCAA basketball fan. I'm much more. Don't get me wrong. I love hockey, but that's kind of the pro sport that I go to, and I'll watch football a little bit and stuff like that. But like the Carolina Panthers, who are also garbage this past year.
Did they trade Cam yet? I heard they were going.
I hope so. Scam Newton. He
was so good. What happened?
His head finally got too big and just lopped off his shoulders.
Yeah.
Jackass.
Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah. But I'm a Syracuse fan, I grew up outside of Syracuse, about 20 minutes. I got my MBA from Syracuse, so I get to bleed orange because they took a bunch of money from me.
Nice.
But we were getting smoked this season. But even though we were getting crushed this season, and UNC was even worse, and they're usually on the top of the game. And I live right down the street from UNC Chapel Hill, so that's a whole nother fun thing. But I missed that because the tournament, much like hockey, is any team can show up and knock out a number 1 seed if you're number 16, even though it's only happened, I think, once ever. But every year, a 15 seed gets past a 2 seed.
Yeah,
and that's the best. It's so much fun.
My first year, or the year before I went to college, so 2005, my small liberal arts school in New Jersey, Monmouth University, made the NCAA tournament as the last seed. And they won their first game and knocked out, I think, the first seed.
It had to been.
Yeah. And then they like got their asses whooped the next round, and but it was, I mean, this was like a scrappy little team that like scraped their way in. They were, I forget, they're in a different division now, so I can't remember what they were back. This is 11 years ago now. I think they're in two, so Division One. I don't know. I don't know a lot about college basketball. I don't do a lot of college sports because it's just one more thing. I watch Stanford football games. I inherited that from my in-laws. My father-in-law went to Stanford, and I went to the Rose Bowl a couple times when Stanford smoked the Hawkeyes a couple years ago. That was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We have some comments, and they said that waiting to see how many lottery balls the Celtics got. So, we obviously have some people who are high-end Boston fans also in here. And then Bam is saying that I think he said Cam Newton got released.
I think that's what I was reading that they were planning to do. I haven't kept up with any news that isn't comics for about 2 weeks.
I haven't either.
And even the comic stuff, I'm having to kind of wean myself off just because it's like sensory overload at this point. Because information is coming so fast right now, and none of it is like meaningful. It's just like a lot of sort of conjecture and people saying like what might happen, and just sort of tuning out has been felt healthy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if Carolina let him go, and I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up on the Browns.
Yeah. Well, Gorilla Mosh just said he's saying that he's a free agent. Oh, we signed Teddy Bridgewater. Okay.
Why? Teddy's a good quarterback. Don't get me wrong.
Well, that's what Carolina needs.
But he's not a consistently good quarterback, and he's always hurt.
Also true.
That was the case. Was he just on the Jets? Is that where he just landed before last season? Because I know he was on the Vikings for a while.
I think he was Jets, right?
I did not pay very close attention this past football season. This was the first year that I didn't play fantasy, so I'm out of the loop on a lot. So I watched all the Niners games. Obviously, I went to a couple of them even. But if a team wasn't playing the Niners, I didn't know anything about them this year, which was weird. I'm not used to that.
Yeah, Gorilla's saying he was with the Saints.
Okay,
so.
I mean that's not a bad place to land. I don't know what it's going to matter. If Breeze does retire, they got that fucking jack of all trades guy who can quarterback and tackle and is going to be the whole team.
just pick it up and just go. You only need one guy. Everybody try to block for him. Done.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, football is one of the reasons I don't like football, and this is a very small thing, is that it's it really can be a game that's decided by one person. You put Tom Brady on a team, there's a good chance that team's going to win most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And there are obviously factors that can affect that, how strong the O-line is, but you find a scrappy player like him or who's the dude who's in Baltimore now?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know.
I mean, he had a bad game in the playoffs, but on the whole, he's a really effective quarterback, and I think the Ravens are going to be good for a long time to come because of that. And on the other side of things, you can have Jimmy Garoppolo, who is 50-50 depending on the game, and it shows. You have a team that won most of their games. Did the Niners have the best record last year? I think they did.
So, yeah.
or tied it.
Mm-hmm.
But they won a lot of their games by 3 points. And that says a lot about a team. If they had is his last name It's not Kumar. That's definitely the wrong name.
No.
Something. It's got like a bar in it though. This is gonna kill me. But anyway, if they had a Tom Brady or the dude who's over on Kansas City.
I know who you're talking about. I'm losing. I haven't talked football since my fantasy team was done, so I'm with you on all these names dropping.
Yeah, but I mean, one player doesn't always make or break a team, but in football, it's a lot more likely. Whereas in baseball, you have like
Mahomes. That's it.
Mahomes, yeah. Hockey is the same way. Like there's a couple teams that are built around like one player, like the Penguins or the Caps, but they're honestly not bad without them. But like the Bruins are a solid machine. Like you can swap in and out parts. Like Chara is arguably somebody who you couldn't swap out very easily, but their backup goalie is about as good as Tuca, and Charlie McAvoy is as good as Marchand, and like you can move the lines around, and like that's a well-oiled machine.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you.
I couldn't name you one Hurricanes player though.
Well, they started trading out people like crazy.
They've got a Devils situation like where they just are constantly in rebuild mode.
Well, they kept getting hurt.
Yeah.
So and then they're like, all right. Well, I mean, they even had this season. They even had a backup. What was he from? They pulled in a goalie that was from the farm team of the Maple Leafs, right?
Yeah, well, there's even like something even more ridiculous. One of the teams like went through all of their backups and like ended up bringing on the Zamboni guy, and
that was Carolina.
Is that Carolina?
Yeah, that's who it was.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and they won.
But I mean, that's how fun hockey is. Like,
it was
like you have those underdog shots like we were talking about.
Airs, and like, that's it.
So we've been talking a lot about sports, and I have not been looking at the camera. I'm looking at a black screen.
Yeah,
right
you
here,
have you have to go.
I mean, I could talk for a minute.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not in any rush. I do have a wedding, like post situation, marriage to tend to, but she'll be there. I hope. I'm surprised she was at the altar. So if she made it there, she's not going to be gone when I walk out of here in 5 or 10 minutes.
My wife's already in bed.
Well, it's what 10:20 for you. It's only 7 o'clock here.
Yeah, she's already snoozing. She's done. But she knows I do this every Sunday and Wednesday, and she knows I love it. So she's kind of like, do what you love,
So do we want to maybe field some fan questions? Or I don't want to assume these people are fans of mine, but fans of yours.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions? We don't get Frank on the show much, and
I will say anything. Like you ask me a question.
This is also true. It can be about his comics, or it can just be about whatever the hell you want. So if you throw out a random question, the chances of him answering it bluntly are super high.
Pretty high, yeah. Or if you want to like talk shit about the Hurricanes, but put a question mark at the end of it to confuse Jeff.
Damn, that's just shitty. Was that a Boston Scally Scally you were wearing? Is it called a Scally?
It's a Target golf hat. I don't know what you would call it. It was $12 at Target. I like the Goodfellow line of clothing that they do. It fits me really well. It's kind of basic, like kind of solids and jeans. So yeah, it's let me see. I'll look at the tag. It is it's called a shell hat. So I don't know if that means anything. It's
just the same thing, Bam. I don't know. I don't wear those. I should start because I'm bald.
Yeah, well, somebody told me that I looked like I could be in the Dropkick Murphys, and I was like, all right,
really could.
Let me lean into that a little bit. Also, but now like everyone at Source Point is wearing like hats like this, and I've tried to like back off a little bit, and they kind of like got up in my shit. Like I have a denim vest, and like now everybody's wearing denim vests. I don't want to say I'm a trendsetter, but got a lot of dick riders over at Source Point folks.
Well, we're gonna have Josh on the show soon, so I'll see what he's wearing.
Jeez, Josh? Which Josh? Werner?
Werner.
When does he have time?
I don't know.
Man, he's the most busy person in comics.
Yeah, well, him and Dave, we're gonna do a Rotten Tail.
Okay.
Movie night on Twitch. So
nice.
Spinwhiz Comics Show is going to be taken over by Rotten Tail.
Okay, yeah, so, that's pretty cool. That's definitely worth him taking the time to do. Yeah, we have a Slack channel for
you do?
Source Point.
Oh, nice.
For like internal, not public. And then and like I talk to Josh pretty regularly on there, but there are some days where like it's just like radio silence for a few days because he's just got so much else stuff going on.
Yeah.
So much else stuff going on. I'm starting to mix up words now.
Yeah. Well, he has a baby too, right?
Yeah, and a wife. And he's like doing like 125% of what goes on at Source Point for us. Like the man he's super talented graphic designer, and like my biggest sort of the biggest shame about him taking on like an administrative role in the company or an executive role is that he doesn't get to do a lot of work anymore. Which is fine because it lets me do a lot of my graphic design, but I don't know, like I wish he had more time to do some creative stuff. Like that stuff can be really anxiety releasing, and he's always so damn busy. Like I can't imagine how his head doesn't fucking explode every day.
I don't know either, and he's always happy. Well, I mean, at least when I see
pleasant.
him. Pleasant.
I don't know if he's happy,
yes.
but he's pleasant.
Pleasant, and energetic.
You don't want to get on his bad side though. Like
No.
there are days where he just doesn't want it, and like, yeah, he has put me in my place a couple times.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, he's a busy guy, and like sometimes even somebody as self-sufficient as me can be needy, I guess.
I get it. I've been told to rock the bald. Like,
yeah, I'm gonna own it. Like it probably won't happen to me. Both of my grandfathers have full heads of hair still, and are still full of dark hair. So I don't know that I'll ever get the opportunity. But like if it came my way, I'd do the Vin Diesel.
Yeah, my wife won't let me shave this right here. She's like, no, you have to keep that. I'm like, why? Just let me.
I mean, is it a deal breaker? Like, do you think if you did it and just asked for forgiveness, like
I have.
Yeah,
and it didn't go over well. It's more of just a negative hum in the house. So it just like and it's constantly there. So
gotta pick your battles, man.
I know. And Gorilla said he was bald at 23, and Bam tells me that I have the monk look working. That's fucked up.
Think of all the money on haircuts you've saved, though.
Oh, tons.
Like I live in the most expensive city in the U.S. and it cost me about $30 after tip to get a haircut. Yeah, and I'm getting a haircut like once a year, so like let's round that up. It's like $400 a year.
Yeah, and I don't. Yeah, you're right. I mean, there's bonuses to it too. I mean, I don't have to go through nearly as much shampoo.
It's true. I've never even thought of it. Do you even need shampoo?
A little bit, just for the dry scalp.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, not like Head and Shoulders, not that stuff, but I mean, not that if Head and Shoulders ever wanted to advertise on this show, I wouldn't say no, but
I would say no.
Yeah, I mean,
Selsun Blue.
Selsun Blue. Oh yeah, I don't know if I don't know.
They just seem more respectable. Their bottle is fancier.
That's true. I use something from Dollar Shave Club, and they have. I'll tell you what. Talk about brand expansion. Their stuff is fantastic. I use their.
We're about to find out that this is sponsored by them.
It is not sponsored by them either. No,
you should get that sponsorship.
I should call. I'm going to show them this. So I'm going to go through it. Like I started with their razors. Razors were great. Then I got their shaving stuff, which was fantastic. I used the shave butter, amazing. The after balm, like the aftershave, amazing. And then I got their one wipe Charlies, so you can have a little fresher bum after you go
poop.
Yeah.
Is that the word you're looking for? Shit.
After you make a stinky.
Number 2.
I have a 7-year-old, so we try not to, and then I got their shampoo and their conditioner and their face wash, all fantastic. You were up to
like 11 or 12 products already.
9. And then
you have no hair and you are using more products.
Well, because it's a that's only 2. It's a dry scalp and conditioner for what I have left, so it conditions my skin.
This feels like they got you. Like you are.
Oh, I'm a brand loyalist.
Hyper fan.
I mean,
yeah, but like I am a very simple person. Like whatever is in the shower, whatever my wife's using, that's what I'm using this week. Like,
oh, you're easy.
Yeah, like I use one type of toothbrush and one type of toothpaste, and I buy it in bulk, and like that's the same thing with deodorant. Like this is stuff that I do not want to be thinking about. Like there's so much more important stuff going on.
That's true.
And I am fascinated by I feel like an anthropologist listening to you right now.
I actually I just got their deodorant too to try it.
Okay.
I'm always looking for the best product that will help me, and then I buy a bunch of it. And I guess I just haven't found that. Like the Oral-B toothbrush, I've had that for the last 10 years, and I'm not going away from Oral-B. And then I use the Crest. I started Crest whitening, and it wasn't that great. Then I tried Crest 3D, a bunch of marketing bullshit. So I went back to regular Crest Pro.
I like this is not even about comics anymore, but I think it's either Crest or whatever the other Crest competitor is.
Colgate?
I don't know.
Or
Yeah, it's one of those two. It's
Colgate?
The one with scope, like the mouthwash in it. I think it's Crest with scope.
Oh yeah, like, Crest with scope is good.
And it's just I've used it probably for 10 years, and I have the vibrating toothbrush, like with the like you can buy it, like
the Oral-B.
The Oral-B, and it's a button and it vibrates. So I have the firm bristles, and I've been super loyal to that. But I just had to, out of necessity the other day, use a soft bristle toothbrush. And I'll tell you what, you've got a ton cleaner.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think that the softer bristles cleaned more. And
they do.
Yeah, it's wild. So I think now I'm going to go to like a combination of the two, like sort of alternating, because I just can't believe that the soft toothbrush gets everything, but it like really gets like in the spaces that the hard one can't. Have we talked about comics in the last 20 minutes?
No. No, it went from sports and now it's into consumerism. And even BAM says anthropologist of consumerism. That's what you are.
That is a better title than writer of comics. I bet I would make more money. Not that I'm in it to make money, but if I was, that would definitely be an upgrade.
I bet you could do You can be a consultant on anthropologist of consumerism.
Okay. Let me interview you for a couple questions. I have some questions for you.
Oh shit! Here we go. You're the first one to ever ask me questions.
Well, I used to do interviews and journalism and stuff, so it's kind of like there's a lot of times where I'm doing interviews and like people don't ask the follow up, and then like I make them ask the follow up. I have control issues, I think. But what are you reading right now to get through this sort of shelter in place, stay in the house kind of situation? What are you reading?
So I have yours on doc, but I've actually been watching more stuff. I'm trying to catch up on stuff I've been Jack Ryan. I had started to get through that.
With what's his face from The Office?
Yep. So the first season was fantastic. Second season's good so far. I am going through Schitt's Creek with my wife. Awesome.
My wife likes that a lot.
Oh my gosh, fantastic. Schitt's Creek is great. And then so I'm kind of jostling around a couple things. My Hero Academia. I'm finally through all that, and I've just been like Lock and Key. I finally went through, and let me tell you, I don't know. I can't remember who wrote it. Who wrote Lock and Key? Yeah, and he does such a good job writing because you hate all the characters. They're such all pieces of shit, and but it's because they're kids, and you're thinking from an adult. And, we could have a whole. I want to have him on the show just so I can tell him how good he wrote the characters. And I don't know him personally, so that might never happen. But
I met him recently. I wouldn't say that I know him, but we were in passing at C2E2, I think. And I got to talk to him for a couple minutes. Seems like a nice guy.
Oh, that's
super.
Nice.
Super doesn't like the fact that he's Stephen King's son. Like he's very much about him being his own person.
I didn't know he was Stephen King's son.
And that's on purpose. He took a fake last name, Hill, to sort of blaze his own trail. So he didn't like have his dad's last name helping him along.
Holy shit. Well, he's doing a good job.
Yeah, they've written some stuff together more recently, like now that he has established himself and sort of proven that he's, capable on his own. Stephen King kind of did the same thing for a while. He started writing under a pen name, which is escaping me right now. But to see if like people bought his books for his name or because of his talent, to see if it was like replicable. And what was it? Richard something maybe. Those books ended up being bestsellers too, and he figured out like that people liked his writing, not just like him.
Was it Richard Straub?
Is that it? I think that's it. That sounds right.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead, Gorilla. I'll meet you. Well, so I'm actually watching more, but I think the big thing is with me that I've been doing and I've been up late doing is onboarding new publishers. We signed 7 publishers this past week.
Damn, dude! Congrats. That's
Thanks.
great.
Yeah, we just broke 60 publishers.
Oh, shit.
So I've just been busy reading through stuff, making sure that we're not ripping people off. Because that's what we do. We make sure that their shit isn't copyrighted. And it hasn't been. So that's what I've been doing. Bam said, what the hell he said, what the F? I know you'd like that. Are all the books on the wall? And
what the front door?
Yeah. So Bam, that's only 1/5 of the amount of comics he has.
Let me see if I can
Yeah, can you rotate that bad boy?
Screen. So that's where the shelf starts, and then they go
old school Ninja Turtles too, by the way, all the red.
Further. And then I think there's 2 rows above and then like 3 below. And then on the other side of the screen, there are 5 more shelves. And they're pretty full. There's some Power Rangers memorabilia over there, but otherwise, I read a lot. I read mostly digital, but I do like sort of owning. I also like supporting my comic shop, and reading digital doesn't always do that. So I do pull a few books, and I buy a lot of trades. Behind me is my Marvel and DC stuff. Yeah, and then on the other side is indie and sort of creator owned. So it's kind of a mix of everything. My goal is to have sort of complete runs of the Marvel characters I love. So like at the top where you guys can't see, there's probably Spider-Man's on like 850 now. I think there's probably like 600 issues worth of trades up there.
Holy shit.
So yeah, they're doing like this really nice line called Epic Collections, which collect like 15-ish issue chunks of the books, and they sort of mapped out like the first 400 or 500 issues like that, but they're releasing them out of order. So I've got like 1, 2, 3, 5, and then a bunch in the teens and a bunch in the 20s have been released so far. But I've got that for Spider-Man, Cap, Avengers, Thor, Iron Man, pretty much all like the big Marvel heavy hitters. And then complete runs of Hawkeye, Black Panther, and Iron Fist, who are my 3 favorite characters.
Holy crap.
Yeah, when I first started writing, I had a big omnibus collection, like the hardcover sort of versions of all this. And I sold those to pay for Grief to get made. Making comics is really, really expensive.
Yes.
And I had a lot of like really rare and out of print ones. So I was able to make a few $1,000s selling them pretty quickly. And I kind of got out of the hardcover game because like, it just would have been really hard to do all that. And then I moved across the country and like, just the logistics of moving heavy boxes and more boxes, it just didn't make sense. But now that like we're settled and we own our place, like I've started building that stuff back up, and eventually I'll run out of space and I'll have to stop, but not anytime soon.
Yeah, I sold all my comics, all my magic cards, but I had some really rare ones, like really rare, like Moxes. And then I sold all my GE stock to start Spinwhiz.
So yeah, that's so I got the idea from Kevin Smith, who grew up very close to where I grew up, like less than a mile away.
Oh wow.
And he had a really nice old comic book collection. He sold it to pay for Clerks to get made. And I was like, well, if Kevin Smith can do this, I can do this. That's part of how I got started in comics. I do have like a really nice comic collection now. Like I've built a lot of it back up, and I've got some like I've almost the full run of Fantastic Four. I'm missing 1 issue, number 5, first appearance of Doctor Doom. It's the most expensive issue by a long shot. I've got Avengers number 1 and a bunch of other key Avengers. I've got a full run of The Crow, all first print, which is like super rare, signed by James O'Barr. First print run of Kabuki by David Mack, which is a much more under the radar indie title from the early 90s, but like super duper rare. I'm trying to think what else. I've got a lot of rare books, more key books than like runs and stuff like that. But at this point, I've got most of the comics that I'm ever going to want to buy that aren't like new books that are coming out. Like I still pull some books, but for the most part, like the backlog of books that I would like to own is getting pretty thin.
That's good. Well, do you have more to ask me? That was awesome. Do you really?
Yeah.
All right, well, keep going. I got nothing to do.
So just to recap, Jeff can't read, so he watches TV.
That's why I'm a writer. I can
are
write.
You a video game guy?
I'm a huge video game guy. Yes.
What are you playing? What are you playing right now? What do you want to play, but you can't because you have a kid and a job?
Well, yeah. Well, luckily, I help. I have to stay into gaming because I actually run Lenovo's esports division. Like I'm actually building up their entire esports program.
That's not a real thing.
So real. But oh my gosh, worth so much. It's actually worth more than.
I believe it's worth something. I don't think it's.
Oh yeah. Well, they don't tell them because they're paying me to do that. So
what's that dumb game kids play?
Fortnite.
Yeah, Fortnite. I bet it's a lot of fun. I bet. And Minecraft.
I don't like the building mechanic of it, but yes, it is fun. And Epic is right down the road from me.
What do you play?
So Apex Legends. I usually play that with Fatty and Gorilla Mosque, and then Call of Duty, the new the new version of it. I play. I used to play League of Legends all the time, and now I play their chess version, their turn-based strategy version of that.
Okay.
But anything you throw at me, I'm going to play. From a video game perspective, I've been gaming since Atari back in the day, and I have.
You are the opposite of me.
Yeah, I have completed more video games and logged more time than pretty much everybody I know.
I believe that, and somebody's got to be that person, right?
Yeah.
I am the total opposite of you. I play video games. I have all the major consoles. I have PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and then like all the last gen, and all like the mini consoles. Like I play video games, but I'm super selective. I have all the consoles because there like is one title on each console that's exclusive that I want to play, which just screws me. Like I'm playing Uncharted right now for the first time. Uncharted 3.
So good.
Yeah, no, it is super good. And I'm writing a book that is sort of a globe-trotting adventure treasure hunter book. So, like, this is research. But you didn't hear that from me just now.
No, you get to write it off.
Exactly. But, like, I'm loyal to franchises. Like, I love Metal Gear. And, like, I don't play a lot of games, but with the games I do play, like, I play all the way through. Like, Metal Gear, I think I put 200 hours into it, and I beat everything. I got all the S ranks on all the missions. I got 100% of the trophies and everything. And like that's what I'm more interested. I have OCD when it comes to games, but I'm also like very story driven. So like I can't. Call of Duty, like it's kind of fun when other people are around, but like I don't get a lot out of it. I'd much rather play God of War or
God of War, another good one.
Yeah, something with story to it.
So did you like the Resident Evil books? Games.
So I started Resident Evil on Resident Evil 4 back on I think GameCube when it got re-released for that. So it was like 2005 probably. And I didn't play any of the originals. And then I tried to play Resident Evil 1 and like the tank controls were just too tanky and dated for me by the time I got to it. I am playing Resident Evil 2, the remastered one that they just released, which is sort of like a medium upgrade. Like it looks much better and like some of the gameplay is like mechanically better and more modern, but like it's still a little tank-like, and like the story is a lot smaller than a game like that you would play today. But I'm having fun with it, and I pre-ordered the Resident Evil 3 remake that comes out I think in like a week. So like I'm enjoying it. I was a Silent Hill fan more than a Resident Evil fan.
Yeah.
Like Silent Hill 1 and 2 and maybe 3, I can't remember. I really enjoyed. I just felt like they were better told stories. It was less about the action and more about like what the characters were going through. But I enjoy Resident Evil 2. Like it's hard to compare the two. Resident Evil 4 I think is a masterpiece.
I would agree with you. And if you want a good game, I'm looking it up right now. My cousin actually is a game coder. Shocker that in the family that we have a coder. He made a game called What Remains of Edith Finch.
That sounds familiar.
And it's on PC. It's on Steam.
Okay.
But it is.
I have Steam.
It is one of the. It's dirt cheap. I think right now it's like $5.
Like a lot of their games are 70% off right now.
Yeah, and I think it was $5 even before. It is one of the best story-based lead-through games I've ever played. Okay. And I'm not saying that because he's my cousin, because I didn't know he had done that until I saw his name in the credits, and I'm like, there's no way it could be Evan. And I called him, and he's like, yeah, how'd you like it? I'm like, holy shit, why didn't you tell me? I work in gaming. What is your problem? And it came out probably 3 years ago, and it leads you through, but from a storytelling perspective, It is awesome.
All right. Yeah, I'll write that down.
Mm-hmm. It'll only take you maybe an hour and a half to get through the game, maybe 2 hours, and just so well done.
I mean, comic books take like 10 minutes to read. Like,
true. That's true.
That is not my metric for entertainment value. It can't be, or else I would be in the wrong industry.
That's right.
But I'll check that out. I've been playing a lot of board games lately too. Like, I've never been a big board game person. Like outside, like the classics, Monopoly and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of having like a renaissance these days, and SourcePoint has a board game company attached to it.
They do.
So I kind of started on those, and then IDW has a game division too, and they put out a game based on the Ninja Turtle comics they do. It's sort of like a minifigure dungeon crawler kind of like turn-based kind of thing, and it's a lot of fun. I play with my wife, and she's like actually super into it, and it's pretty complex. Like there's a lot of moving parts and little pieces and tokens and shit, but it's kind of fun. There's a Power Rangers game that came out last year in a similar vein, not quite the same. I like that one a little better. I've been playing this game called Runes and Regulations. It's by the company that does Unstable Unicorns. It's kind of just like a little, I don't know if deck building game is the right word for it, but I don't know, just keep them busy. Like, do you play games with your kid?
Yeah, we're starting obviously with the Candyland, and he likes Monopoly on the Switch. We got him tomorrow. I bought him like a junior version, so we're gonna try that tomorrow. We do Legos together, and he hasn't gotten into like the tabletop, like the D&D stuff yet.
Yeah,
but he likes.
It's hard.
It is. So we start with Yahtzee because that's kind of like rolling dice, but at least it helps him mathematically to learn different combinations and stuff like that. So we play a lot of those games. We play Uno, and so a lot of things that he can obviously do. And actually, it's funny you mentioned your boys there.
Which turtles?
Nope, your guys from SourcePoint. I actually got this game.
Really?
So this is called Claim.
Claim. Did you have Claim 2?
Yeah, I have Claim 1 and Claim 2 with me.
And fantastic expansion.
So I got both of them, and I got the expansion decks. And we haven't played yet because I want to make sure that I read through. But it's basically like, the gist is it's like war, but you use two factions basically that offset each other. And I really look forward to playing this with Hudson because he loves war. And this is kind of like the upgraded version of it.
And it's simple. I play that with my wife a bunch. Just like if we're trying to pass the time waiting for something, that's a good one to bust out because it's quick. And the expansions are fun. What is it? I think zombies and vampires are in the expansion. It's kind of like it's a good primer for kind of like Uno is a good primer for like kind of like games where you like screw other people with cards.
Yes.
I don't know if that's a genre, but
and he's really good at it too. Like he likes knowing, he already knows how to screw you in certain games. And I'm just like, holy crap. Like you're like a little genius. And obviously he definitely takes after my wife in that aspect.
Take him to the casino.
I mean, he's not Rain Man.
No, but if he's better at cards than you, it's better use of your money.
That's true. That is true. But I play craps. I'm a craps guy. I will play craps all night long because it's all statistics.
Yeah.
And
I mean, well, it's odds, not statistics, right? Like you can lose. You can't guarantee a win, but
correct. But you can statistically know what your advantages are not.
Yeah.
I guess that's same thing with Monopoly.
Yeah. I'm a monster at Monopoly. Like, I don't know.
Ooh.
Well, it's just like I'm kind of a shark. Like, there are no like set rules for Monopoly outside of like the base game, right? Like, so like wheeling and dealing, like when getting into the nitty gritty, like toward the end of the game or even just after the middle when people have property and they start landing on like hotels and stuff and can't afford the rent, like being like, listen, you don't got to pay the rent. You never have to pay the rent here again if you give me that property.
That's right. I do that too.
or like, and like my wife gets so mad about it because she's like, that's cheating. I'm like, no, that's how capitalism works.
That literally is capitalism.
Yeah. And she works for a bank. So like, I don't know how she doesn't get it.
I know.
She doesn't like losing. That's what it is.
That does happen. Gorilla Mosh says for the PlayStation, get The Last of Us. Great story.
That's the other one. I didn't read that, but that's there too. Here, I'll get the stack. We can go through this.
Holy crap, he does have the stack. See, this is why I like interviewing Frank.
Because I have props. So we got the Uncharted collection, 1, 2, and 3.
Marvelous.
Remastered. Last of Us.
Yep. Awesome.
Metal Gear, because I'll play this over and over and over again.
Have to.
Resident Evil 2.
Fantastic. Yep.
God of War, and Uncharted 4. That's what's on.
That's a
the line
quality stack.
That's what I'm playing this year. And then I've got Tomb Raider, the new series.
Yeah.
For the Xbox out in the living room. I played the Pokemon game that came out a while ago. That was kind of fun. I don't know. I'm too old for Pokemon, but I definitely just am in the habit of buying the game every 2 years when it comes out. What else? I just played something else. I got my wife like the mini Switch, like the smaller one for Christmas, so she would stop playing mine. And I got her this game called Cat World, which is kind of like, it's like a very basic dungeon crawler. Like your kid could play this. Like it's not complicated at all. It's just hack and slash and kind of like small armor upgrades. But she was playing that for a couple weeks, and then I was bored one afternoon, so I played it and beat the whole thing in like an hour. She was super salty about that. And I didn't even beat it right. Like I just kind of like figured out like the timing of like the attack system, and like just went right to the last boss, and like just took my time beating him little by little, and then like the game was over. Like she was so mad.
That's awesome. Yeah, he we have to make sure that he only plays a certain amount per day.
Yeah, because careful about that.
We just
because you'll get me if you get unregulated play. Well,
he turns in, he just becomes another person if he plays too long, because all the blue light and all that stuff, and it gears you up. If you don't know how to take care of it, it gears people up and it gears him up. So we make sure that he's okay. But I used to be a huge Halo player. Tournaments, everything, the whole thing. I was never state ranked, but I did well enough where I was ranked in the game pretty damn high. But never at live stuff. But and Gorilla's saying Last of Us 2 comes out in May, so you're gonna have to add that.
That's why it's on the stack. Like everything on the stack is either something I haven't gotten to, or what comes before like a game that I want to play or told to play. Like, so I'm playing Resident Evil 2 because Resident Evil 3 is about to come out, and that's just sort of how I prioritize like whatever I need to be playing to play the next one, and then 3 will come and I won't play it for a year. So like I'm rushing for no reason, but yeah, some of it's research too. Like I said, Uncharted is helping write a story. I would love to write a Metal Gear style story someday. Like that whole franchise is just one big epic, amazing story, and it's so over the top. I've been watching some of the '60s Bonds, the Sean Connery ones, and like just hearing the music in that, and like the different like things that they do. Like it's amazing how much of that went in the Metal Gear 3. So yeah, I guess I'm a little bit more of a gamer than I thought.
See? And I think I just saw you post about watching Thunderball, right? Or Thunderdome?
Yeah, Thunderball was our most recent watching. We got out of order. We couldn't watch the second one, From Russia with Love, for some reason. Like it just wouldn't stream on Amazon. So we skipped to Thunderball, or we skipped to Goldfinger, which is the third one, and then we watched Thunderball. So we're going to go back and watch From Russia with Love next, and then like we'll probably watch through the Connery stuff and then maybe jump off. The idea is to watch everything in before November when the new one comes out.
I've seen all of them in order, and they're all awesome.
I think that the Dalton and Roger Moore stuff is not that great.
No, not really.
There's good stuff in there, but like the Connery stuff and the Craig stuff, I think is like the A-list, and the Pierce Brosnan stuff is what I grew up on. So like it's special to me in a weird way, but like it's definitely like it's almost like the Batman Forever and Batman and Robin of the Bond franchise. Like it's from the same period, like the late 90s, where things were kind of like leaning back into camp a little bit and kind of like over the top ridiculousness. Almost like it was like the Connery stuff, but almost a little too much caricature, like ice palaces and over the top villains and shit like that. the Craig stuff was kind of like a nice reboot and refresh after that.
Yeah, not to change the subject, but a movie that pissed me off and the book that I love was The Gunslinger. Back to Stephen King, amazingly enough.
I didn't even go see it. I love
was awful.
I mean, just some things just aren't adaptable, and like I think it's okay to accept that.
It wasn't even the same story.
Yeah. And then like how do you mess it up with like McConaughey and Idris Elba? Like those are two of the very best actors in the world, and like if they did like an okay movie, like that would have been fine. Like you can do that book badly, but like to do a very, very bad version like they did, like it's like unacceptable. Like why did you bother?
I don't know how Stephen King even greenlit that. Even if he probably didn't have the ability to greenlight it. He sure as shit didn't write it. A lot of zeros
in that check.
A lot of zeros. Even still, I was just like, what in the flying fuck is this? Like, way to destroy literally the book that I base all my writing around. Is that series, Dark Tower.
Maybe he greenlit it in hopes that the franchise would just die on the vine and he wouldn't have to see any more garbage.
Maybe. Maybe. But anyway, what other, I mean, this is fun. Nobody asks me questions. Usually when I go to shows, I'm pitching and talking to people and they're like, can you get the fuck away from me? Until after, and then they do want to talk, but.
Let me see if I think I got one more for you. All right, this is sort of standard, sort of question asking. But let's see if we can like get some good stuff out of it. Like if you got trapped on a desert island, crash land, and you could have one book that's not the Dark Tower with you, and it has to be a nonfiction book, what would it be? What's your go-to like? I want to learn something today book. It's a tough one.
I think it would have to be. I've been going through a lot of those with my son. Like we've been learning about sharks, and we've been learning about pirates, and all sorts of other little cool stuff. So I think it would have to be like an Encyclopedia Britannica of just
curveball answer, but fits the parameters.
Of just stuff, because I don't know if I'd ever pick up like. I don't have a go-to about any type of I guess if I had to learn about someone, it would probably be more like Einstein or Tesla or something of that nature. If it was more of a learn and like real type stuff, because the war books, I've read a bunch of stuff about the Civil War, Revolutionary War. Not that I'm a war buff or anything, but maybe.
You heard it here, just pro war.
No, definitely not. False.
Sounds like you like war books. You don't get war books without war, man.
Well, I would say the old school wars.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know, but maybe a way to get the hell off that island, like a cookbook. Be like, holy shit, where's the coconut?
A how to build canoes book.
Yeah, what do you mix with sand in order to make like something really sturdy and sell
alcohol?
Where's the rum gone?
Yeah.
What about you?
There's a few books. Like I mostly read nonfiction these days. Like I'm not a very fast reader, and like I don't know, fiction is very hard for me. As much as I love it, I listen to a lot of audiobooks for fiction now. But I do read a lot of nonfiction. And we've talked about Stephen King a bunch. Stephen King wrote a memoir called On Writing, and it's like 50% like my life, like Stephen King's life, and 50% like writer's toolbox stuff. But a lot of it is like him explaining like how he essentially like became a writer and like what those tools are used for, by like demonstrating how he used them in his own life. And like it's something that like really was helpful for me. Like he talks about it a little bit when he first started writing novels and short stories. Like he got a lot of rejections when he started, like pretty much every writer does. And he had a big railroad spike that he put in his wall, and he would just pop it on every time he got a rejection letter. And kind of like like at the meat counter at a grocery store, they've got the pin that they put the receipts on. Like imagine one of those on a wall. And eventually he got so many that it was too heavy that the nail fell off the wall and he had to get a bigger one. But like, you know, he kept at it and kept writing and kept like that reminder on the wall that he needed to be better. And like, I just thought that was like really powerful. And that was my plan when I started writing. But then everything I've ever written has been published. So like
whoops, small nail.
Yeah. I mean, like really, really bad problem to have, I know. But like, I don't know, like, I feel like I don't have any writer's war stories. Like I'm never going to be Hemingway.
Right. Well, you said that, but you could.
Yeah. I mean, I can go crazy. Like you never know.
Well, except for that part. I mean,
crazier. But no, I do think that is a book that I can't read. I do not like repeat playing, viewing, reading, experiencing most things, except the stuff that I really love. And this is something that I can definitely read over and over and over again.
That's awesome.
And if you haven't read it now,
I have not.
I know you write, and I know you like Stephen's work, so I highly recommend it. It's short. It's like 180 pages. It's a quick read.
Oh, wow. One of the things that Bam says he would bring the Marine Corps Ranger Survival Guide. So just as a thing.
Obvious answer.
Yeah. One thing.
But thinking outside the box. Points.
One thing I'm going to actually read is the Bible. So
I've read it twice.
Never read. I know almost all the stories from it because I grew up Catholic. Which, you know, I grew up Italian Catholic. I mean, I'm Italian, but I grew up Italian Catholic because most of us do.
I don't think you can be Italian and not Catholic.
I don't think it happens. No. And with a name like Palumbo, I mean, you know, that's an automatic. But then I became more Christian about 3 years ago. And I always told myself that I wanted to read the Bible, read it. And, again, I can probably quote stuff out of it. I can do all sorts of stuff. I can talk about it. I get the gist of it, but I've never actually read it page for page all the way through. So that is next on my list. After I finish the Star Wars book that I'm, you know, The Resistance Reborn, that my puppy chewed up half of it and luckily chewed it to almost like the first chunk. So I still have the second chunk left and I wasn't there. I was already there. So I'm going to read the Bible. I think that's
Bible it's a good read. Like, I mean, I think I'm not particularly religious. I was raised religious. But I remember going to church and listening to, you know, sermons and, you know, whatever they're called. And like, I always found a lot of value in like the father, the priest sort of reading and explaining the story. And then like, kind of extrapolating it. Like that was sort of my first like examples of like literary analysis, like looking at a text and like trying to decipher what it means. And like in a vacuum, like religion's a very good thing, and the Bible has a lot of good lessons. Like there are definitely some things in there that are wrong. And especially in the second half of the book, like, you know, not the Genesis through Revelation stuff.
New Testament.
Yeah. But like I've read a lot of books that kind of dissect the Bible. There's a book called, what's it called? It's about the historical life of Jesus and what that really looked like. I think it's called Messiah or something to that effect. But it was really interesting because like it kind of like looks at like, you know, historically, like if Jesus was born and, you know, using passages from the Bible, like he would have been born here and he probably wouldn't have been a carpenter because there weren't carpenters, like, you know, as a primary sort of job in the area of the world that he was said to be born into. And
sure like, it wasn't white with blue eyes.
Yeah. And like, you know, just, but like, you know, sort of like stuff like that. But like for like the Old Testament stuff, like a lot of that stuff is like, unless you're a very, very devout believer, I think we can all agree that like the earth probably didn't flood and repopulate. If you believe that, you have just as much chance of being correct about it as I do. Not believing it, 50-50, it either did happen or didn't happen. But like the allegorical and storytelling nature of something like that, because, you know, there are flood stories from all over the world. That part of the region of the world that all happened in, like, I don't know, is it Iraq or Iran, where the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers are, like they flood regularly and seasonally, and that is a big touchstone historically for the people in that region. Same thing happens in South America and during storm season here in the U.S., where natives had created their own local legends and stuff like that. So like that kind of stuff has always been super interesting to me. And I think that the book has a ton of value from a storytelling point of view and just from like a historical point of view. Like not everything in there is historically accurate, but it's a pretty good sort of Rosetta Stone for understanding what people at the time kind of like thought and believed and like experienced. And then having these sort of supplemental books that I've been reading on side that, like adding context to that has been, it's cool. Like, I mean, like it's a nerdy fucking thing to be into. And it's not the thing I care about most in the world, but I think it's definitely a cool book to read, like, in a vacuum on your own and sort of taking away from it what you will.
Yeah, I look forward to it. It's one of the things that I like to read at night after I do a lot of work. And you know how it is. You're well, like me, you're always thinking of something. You got to put it down. Like I have trouble shutting off, so I have to read at night. Otherwise, I just don't. And it's never. I can't read comics because I do them at night. Like I'm going through and making meta files and stuff like yours. I'm actually going to. And thank you for sending me No Heroine, by the way.
Welcome.
But I only read the comics if the people that are submitting them ask me to. They're like, hey, would you mind just reading it and see what you think about it? And sure. So, but the Bible was one of the things that, I don't know, I want to see, like, the whole goal of it is like, hey, this is what happened. It teaches you, hey, don't be a douche. But in that, like how, from a marketing perspective, if you see God that way, that Old Testament, he was wrath of God. Like he was angry. He was pissed. And then New Testament, he's like, happy Jesus, happy God.
Well, I mean, part of that is the historical truth that those two books were written by different people in different time periods.
Oh, yeah.
The Old Testament was written in Greek, like several thousand years before the New Testament. And the New Testament was written by King James and people around King James using stories that were third hand and really bent to convey certain messages and narratives. I mean, the New Testament is like, it's just shy of being propaganda. Like, if you ask me, like, I don't want to offend anyone who's religious, but
I don't think you would. I mean, well, I'm sure you would.
I definitely would. But
you're
I
not
don't
offending me.
Well, I appreciate that. We can. The beauty of life is that we can disagree on things and not have to be at each other's throats. And I wish more people understood that.
Oh God.
And
that's a whole nother discussion.
I feel like that's a good note to wrap up on.
Well, it has been almost 2 hours.
Yeah. So just to recap, Jeff loves war. He loves the hurricanes, which is just about as bad as loving war. I like video games. Apparently, we learned a lot about everybody.
And most importantly, No Heroine is coming out soon.
It is.
Follow us on social media. Follow Frank on social media. Check out Dead End Kids. Check out Grief. And then when we get No Heroine on the site, we will send it out via. It'll probably be on our homepage because we love putting it on the homepage.
I so appreciate it.
And again, if you're on YouTube, links are below. If you're on Twitch, thank you for being here. If you are in the podcast, just find us. Go to spinwhizcomics.com. You'll find it. Find us on YouTube. We're all over the place. And Frank, it's great talking to you again, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, let's do it again because I feel like we're not going to see each other in San Diego.
That is for sure. So what we need to do is probably get you, me, and some other the Source Point Press guys on.
You should get Travis on and let me and Travis talk to you at the same time. I could tell you things about Travis. He's got gout, and that's a rumor I started and it's starting to catch. So. Listen, that's what happens when you only eat hot dogs. Like if your whole diet is hot dogs, you're gonna get gout.
It comes with the territory.
Exactly.
Yeah. So listen, man, have a great night.
Yeah, you too.
Tell your wife I said hello. She's lovely, and we'll talk to you again super soon. Everybody else, hang out here real quick. I'm gonna play some COD before bed. Later, buddy.
All right, take it easy.
Later.